I woke up to find the sky was falling. I am now in Vietnam's industrial zone. Let me show you the current situation. Look, there are very few people. This place used to be bustling with trucks and people coming and going. Everyone was eating and drinking. Now it's empty. The tariff policy has had an immediate impact on enterprises and freight in the industrial zone. I've been in Vietnam for 13 years, and this is the first time I've seen such heavy tariffs. I am in Vietnam now. Once tariffs are raised, factory exports will face serious challenges. In recent years, many Chinese factories relocated to Vietnam to avoid high domestic tariffs. And this year, more Chinese factories and bosses are expected to come to inspect the situation. Now that Vietnam has raised tariffs, especially to such high levels, its status as a manufacturing hub is in jeopardy. I'm witnessing firsthand the reality of Vietnam's economy. In fact, aside from some growth in industry and real estate, the real economy here is in poor shape. Since the trade war started in 2018, countless Chinese factories have moved to Vietnam. Back then, many believed the US was only targeting China and that things would change if they moved to Vietnam or Cambodia. Now Trump is telling us that this strategy won't work. Many people tried shifting operations to neighboring countries, but now it's all falling apart. Why did Trump impose heavy tariffs on Southeast Asian countries? In fact, it's because this move blocks all our paths. We used to export through Southeast Asia to sell to the US, but that route is no longer viable. Many of our industrial chains and capital were moved to Southeast Asia. Now that investments have been made, capital, labor, and equipment, it will be very difficult to move again. The US has announced a 49% tariff on Cambodian imports. Those familiar with the situation know most factories in Cambodia are Chinese-owned. They moved there to avoid tariffs, but now they're paying even more. Besides, Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand, and Indonesia have also been hit with tariffs of over 30%. How can this problem be solved? Unless factories move directly to the US, there seems to be no way out. People often say, wool comes from the sheep, but this wave of tariffs is making it almost impossible for factories to export to the US. As you can see from the video above, Trump's global trade restructuring, especially the high tariffs on Southeast Asian countries, is putting Chinese bosses who move their factories to Southeast Asia in a tough spot. Today we'll talk about the background of Chinese companies relocating production capacity and why the US launched this trade war. First of all, why do Chinese companies want to relocate? And is changing the place of production effective? Since 2018, the Trump administration began imposing a 25% tariff on hundreds of billions of dollars of Chinese goods, covering electronics, machinery, furniture, clothing, and more. This significantly increased export costs and reduced price competitiveness. These are the reasons why the Trump administration extended high tariffs beyond China to Southeast Asia. Faced with this situation, many Chinese people feel pessimistic. Some believe this wave of tariffs will be the most damaging economic event in the coming years. There are two major characteristics of this tariff wave. First, it exceeded all expectations. The capital markets had predicted a 30% tariff with a gradual increase and a buffer period of 1 to 2 years. Instead, we were hit with a heavy blow, an immediate 20% plus a coming 125%, totaling 145%. The second characteristic is encirclement. The surprising part is how Southeast Asia has become a primary target. Vietnam 46%, Cambodia 49%, Thailand 36%, Indonesia 32%. This is a complete tariff blockade. The whole world knows our enterprises are export-oriented and our manufacturing is shifting to Southeast Asia. ASEAN has become our largest export and transit destination. The fact that these countries now face tariffs as high or even higher than ours sends a clear message. Block all channels for Chinese goods to reach the US. This wave of tariffs will have a major and immediate impact on the economy. People often say the economy has 3 drivers: investment, consumption, and exports. But a more accurate analogy is 1 horse and 2 carts. The horse is exports, pulling the carts of investment and consumption. All the money spent on investment and consumption comes from the wealth originally generated by exports. Now, that horse has taken a serious hit. What is the background of the Sino-US trade war? Will Trump target the CCP in both terms? In December 2001, China successfully joined the WTO after 15 years of negotiations. The premise of joining was that China must promise to open its market, reduce tariffs, eliminate non-tariff barriers, and allow foreign companies to enter the Chinese market. More than 20 years have passed, and it has been proven that the CCP has completely violated all the rules. One of the main manifestations is that it provides huge government subsidies to specific domestic industries, especially traditional manufacturing industries such as steel, solar energy, and textiles. This allows these industries to continue production at extremely low costs, even when global demand is insufficient, and dump them in large quantities into overseas markets, causing a devastating blow to the manufacturing industries of other countries. For example, China's steel was still exported in large quantities in 2015 when there was a global oversupply, making it difficult for local steel mills in Europe and the United States to operate. Solar panels were dumped in large quantities in the European and American markets, causing German and American solar companies to go bankrupt one after another. Although China promised to open its market under the WTO framework, in practice, foreign companies are often forced to form joint ventures with local Chinese companies and share technology in order to enter the Chinese market. For example, if American technology companies or automobile manufacturers want to set up factories in China, they must establish joint ventures with Chinese companies, and patented technologies and management methods must be shared with Chinese companies. The premise of the WTO is fair competition, but China's huge state-owned enterprise system and a large number of private enterprises subsidized by the government have obtained a lot of privileges in financing, taxation, land, energy prices, etc., forming a government and enterprise as one competition model. The CCP also manipulates currency and weakens trade fairness. In terms of export prices, Chinese products are inherently low-priced, and coupled with the exchange rate, they are more attractive, exacerbating trade imbalances. Therefore, the Trump administration launched a trade war against China in 2018 and has imposed tariffs on China and Southeast Asian countries again today. The background is a strong counterattack against China's cheap dumping and unfair trade practices for more than 20 years. Facing the upcoming tariffs, Chinese netizens who are engaged in e-commerce shouted, "The sky is falling. It is too difficult. It is really too difficult. Too many companies in Shenzhen have closed down." This company was engaged in cross-border e-commerce. It had persisted for more than half a year since last year. In the end, it still closed down. Now the office furniture inside is basically new. Others said that the U.S. tariff policy has had a great impact on cross-border e-commerce. There was a policy of $800 tariff exemption before, which has now been canceled. That is to say, no matter what kind of small package, as long as you send it to the United States, you have to pay tariffs, and each one cannot be less than $25. This is extremely terrifying. They set a line. Each one cannot be less than $25, and it will rise to $50 later. Finally, let's take a look at the video uploaded by netizens. Faced with the deserted logistics industry, they don't know whether there is hope in the future. The off-season has really come early. How could it be so quiet in previous years? The current market situation is really scary. I just walked around the entire steel market. There are basically no customers, and even if there are customers, they are very few. This year's market situation is really hard to understand. So I am a little scared. It's already past 10 o'clock in the morning, and there are no cars in the customer parking lot. How do you feel? It's very bleak. It's 11 o'clock in the afternoon, and the merchant parking lot is full of cars. At this time of year in previous years, everyone's cars had gone out to do business. How could they park here collectively? This year's market situation is really too difficult. The container business is finished this year. Fuhua Company, Panyang, CIMC, Xinhuashang, and other companies are all laying off employees. This year, the trade war began to increase tariffs, which will inevitably lead to a decrease in trade. The container ship operation industry is engaged in this kind of import and export trade, so the impact is the most obvious. Recently, I have visited many industrial parks and petrochemical enterprises and found that compared with previous years, this year's business is very bleak. In previous years, cars and ships were busy, but this year there are few people. Not only car transportation, I am now in Jiangsu, but also the business of ships and cargo ships is very bad. Many ships are parked in ports and rivers. The ship owner said that there is no business this year, the freight rate is low, and there is no activity. The logistics industry is a weather vane for economic development, which is very telling.
Looking at Adi, Anai, and Amai behind us, they have all gone bankrupt. Do you dare to imagine how difficult it is to do business this year? And it's not just the clothing industry, but the catering industry as well. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Can you believe it? This is the former Sumida Plaza. Let's take a look at the current scene. At 3 p.m. on January 1st, 2025, the last restaurant closed down. All employees have just been dismissed. I promised to settle all wages with them before the 8th. In addition to arrears of water, electricity, rent, and personnel salaries, the total is about 500,000 yuan. I made more than 20 calls half an hour ago, and still have no solution. To be honest, I really don't know what to do. There is no hope at all. Half a lifetime of hard work has resulted in a lot of debt. Have you ever seen anyone who has lost millions and still sells his house? I have. Many people say that there is no house that cannot be sold, only a price that cannot be sold. But I have lost so much now. What else can I do? Lower it again? When I bought this house, I paid more than 30,000 yuan as a down payment and 700,000 yuan as a loan. I have paid off the loan for 4 or 5 years and spent more than 200,000 yuan, but I have only paid off the principal of 30,000 yuan. Now the loan is about 670,000 yuan. The price I listed has dropped from more than 900,000 to over 800,000. And now it is down to 720,000. You said that there is no price that cannot be sold, so how much should I lower it? 720,000 yuan minus the remaining loan amount of 670,000 yuan. After the sale, I will only have 50,000 yuan left. And as everyone knows, you have to pay personal tax, value-added tax, and agency fees, each of which costs around 10,000 to 20,000 yuan. I will have almost no money left. Maybe I will even owe tens of thousands more. Isn't this price considered low? Everyone is so poor this year. Our family didn't buy anything except necessities this year. Consumption downgrade? No. No one at all. Look, my street is almost empty. When we come back after the new year, there will be even fewer physical stores. Can you believe it? It's hard to imagine that I haven't worked for 3 years. At such a young age, I stayed at home every day and didn't go downstairs for up to half a month. If someone had said to me when I was 18, "You know you will do nothing from the age of 21 to 24, I would never have believed it. But now I really haven't worked for 3 years. 2024 ended in a whimper. The media and major institutions have made various predictions about what China's economy will look like in 2025. X account Overseas Breaking News posted today that housing prices in Guangzhou have recently dropped. On December 26th, a developer in Guangzhou sold specially decorated houses at a 30% discount to withdraw cash. The initial registration price was 20,000 RMB per square meter, and the current price is 5,500 RMB per square meter. A total of 88 units were launched and sold continuously. Not only have housing prices in China fallen, but rental prices have also dropped. X account Darren Media pointed out that houses in Beijing cannot be rented out, and no one even wants them when the price is reduced by 20%. Some Chinese netizens reported that the rental price of a second bedroom in Beijing has dropped from the previous 2,000 RMB to 1,400 RMB, a 30% decrease. X's News Invest reported that before the Lunar New Year, 2,000 to 3,000 door and window factories in Foshan were facing a wave of closures. News Survey speculated that China's entire manufacturing industry could shrink by another half by 2025. In addition, Qin Peng, an expert at the Epoch Times, believes that China is facing a dilemma of running out of stocks, housing, foreign exchange, and debt. Qin Peng analyzed that China's A-shares will eventually reveal their true nature. Although the A-share index is now over 3,000 points, the economy has not really improved. Instead, the government is using publicity and policies to stimulate people's appetite while maintaining stability through the National Team Fund. As long as the economy reveals its true shape and the conflict between China and the United States intensifies, money flows will inevitably flee. Qin Peng speculates that China's housing market will continue to decline, and housing prices and transaction volumes will continue to fall. The conflict between homebuyers and developers will also intensify due to delays in home delivery. The RMB exchange rate will also lose value. Reuters previously pointed out that China is likely to devalue the RMB in response to Trump's high tariffs. Although the government hastily denied the rumors, everyone knows the intention. Qin Peng believes that China's bond market will also be under pressure. The return on investment in Chinese government bonds is falling. The yield on one-year government bonds has dropped below 1%, and the yield on 30-year government bonds is lower than that of Japan. This is an extremely dangerous phenomenon. Interest rates are rent, and the fall in government bond yields means China's economic outlook is less than rosy and optimistic. Chinese real estate companies continue to collapse. The first real estate subsidiary of a central enterprise defaults. China's economy is in recession, and the real estate sector is deteriorating. An announcement reveals that the debt of a real estate subsidiary of a central enterprise under the Communist Party of China is overdue. Mainland media report this is the first instance of such a subsidiary defaulting. On January 3rd, Yunnan Chengdu Real Estate Co. Ltd. issued a statement indicating that the company had previously provided loans to Yunnan OCT Industrial Co. Ltd., hereinafter referred to as OCT Industrial. The principal balance of the loan was 42.0069 million yuan as of December 2020. From 2020 to 2024, the company extended the loan annually, with the due date set for December 31st, 2024. OCT Industrial failed to repay the loan and interest on time, resulting in default as of January 1st, 2025. The announcement further stated that Yunnan Chengdu Real Estate would continue monitoring OCT Industrial's operations and does not rule out taking legal measures for recovery. As of the end of September 2024, OCT Industrial's total assets were 1.053 billion yuan, while its total liabilities amounted to 2.478 billion yuan. The company reported net losses of 130 million yuan in 2023 and 81.25 million yuan in the first 3 quarters of 2024, indicating it is already insolvent. OCT Industrial, a tourism developer, claims to focus on creating an international leisure resort and a new ecotourism demonstration area. The company's equity structure is as follows: Shenzhen OCT Co. Ltd. holds 50%, Yunnan Chengdu Real Estate holds 30%, and OCT Enterprise Co. Ltd. holds 20%. Shenzhen OCT Co. Ltd., the major shareholder of OCT Industrial, was exclusively established and funded by OCT Group, which owns 56.36% of the company. OCT Group, headquartered in Shenzhen, is a large central enterprise directly managed by the State-Owned Assets Supervision and Administration Commission of the State Council of the Communist Party of China. Its primary businesses include culture, tourism, real estate, and electronic technology, spanning over 100 cities nationwide and numerous international regions. It has 4 publicly listed companies domestically and abroad: OCTA, Shenzhen Conca A, Yunnan Tourism, and OCT Asia. In 2022, OCTA recorded its first loss in 15 years since its listing, amounting to 10.9 billion yuan. In 2023, its net loss attributable to the parent company reached 6.492 billion yuan. In the first 3 quarters of 2024, its net loss attributable to the parent company was 2.351 billion yuan. The boss is on the run. Major brands are closing stores en masse. As China's economy continues to deteriorate severely every day, a wave of closures has been set off in the mainland catering industry. Recently, it was reported that many stores of the well-known Hangzhou catering brand Wasabi have been closed. In addition, there have been reports of store closures in many places in the mainland. According to a report by Lianshang.com on September 30th, several Wasabi stores in Hangzhou, including the Hangzhou Building Store, the Mixc Store, the Kerry Center Store, the Raffles Store, and the Binjiang Baolong Store, have been closed. Most stores have posted notices of equipment debugging and temporary business suspension. Staff members of stores around the above locations all said it was closed a few days ago. Many consumers have said that the money in their stored value cards has not been spent, ranging from several thousand to several hundred yuan. A former employee posted online that Wasabi has been in arrears with employees' wages for the past 2 months, and the boss is suspected of having withdrawn the money and run away. According to screenshots on social platforms, there are 175 members in a group called Labor Dispute with Wasabi Catering Management Commerce Ltd. Searching for Shankijia on a group buying platform revealed that there are 22 chain stores in Hangzhou, distributed in Shangcheng District, Shihu District, and other areas, all of which are in a state of closed and suspended business. According to Hangzhou Traffic 918, Xiao Tian, pseudonym, a chef who used to work at the Jixi Yintai city store of Shankijia, said that the closure came too suddenly. He had never heard of this news before. Because of rent arrears for the mall management closed the store on September 27th, stating, "At present, the leaders have notified us, employees, to find jobs on our own." Xiao Tian said that he was owed more than 2 months of salary, totaling over 10,000 yuan, and the store manager was also owed more than 5 months of salary, including the dishwashers in the store, whose wages have not been received. Now all the stores in Hangzhou have closed down. Hundreds of our employees went to ask for an explanation, and the Hangzhou headquarters was empty. Ahai is the meat supplier for more than 10 Shankijia stores in Hangzhou. He stated that he was owed a supply fee of up to 1 million yuan by Wasabi, and the arrears of supply fees had only recently begun. When he went to the Hangzhou headquarters for consultation, he found that the door was closed. Ahai said, "On the morning of September 25th, we delivered goods to many stores as usual. The stores were all in normal business, and there were customers queuing for tables. By September 26th, it was like a system collapse. In just one night, all stores in Hangzhou were closed. For a brand that has been deeply rooted in Hangzhou for so many years, this speed of closing stores is incredible." In addition to Hangzhou, Wasabi has also closed a large number of stores in Xi'an, Fuzhou, Chongqing, Shaoqing, Tixi, and other places. According to Cover News, Wasabi Creative Cuisine currently has only one store left in Chengdu, which is the Chengdu SKP store. At 11 a.m. on September 29th, the store had reached the business hours shown, but Dianping indicated that the store was in a suspended business state. The store staff confirmed that the store had been suspended due to equipment problems and was under maintenance, with no determined date for the resumption of business hours. Public information shows that Hangzhou Wasabi Restaurant Management Kakans Ltd. was founded in 2011. It manages Hangzhou Wasabi Restaurant Management Kaonao Ltd., Hangzhou Juzan Restaurant Management Kaomao Ltd., and Hangzhou Shitun Restaurant Management Kaonao Lishai, and now has more than 40 directly operated stores across the country. It owns Wasabi, Xinjuzan, Huajiangnan, Xiaoshaokui, Bazan, and other brands.
Real footage of China's economic misery. Homeless young people sleep everywhere on the streets. In the past, many large factories settled in Shenzhen and Guangzhou, creating numerous employment opportunities and making Shenzhen the third largest city after Beijing and Shanghai. However, Shenzhen's economic situation has worsened, with many people now sleeping on the streets and in front of the station. Official figures released by the Chinese Communist Party show that the number of newly registered unemployed residents in Shenzhen in the first quarter of this year increased by 40% year-on-year and 15% from the fourth quarter of last year. According to the South China Morning Post, this unemployment statistic may be incomplete, as many laid-off workers haven't been recorded or reported, meaning the official number may represent only a portion of the unemployed. Furthermore, the 2024 College Student Employment Research Report, released by the China Zhaopin recruitment platform, shows that as of mid-October, only 38% of graduates received informal employment notices. A survey by Guangdong University of Technology revealed an employment rate of just 41% for this year's graduates, meaning as many as 60% are unemployed. A recent viral video shows a large number of people, including children, sleeping in the square in front of Longhua bus station in Shenzhen, Guangdong. Chinese netizens believe most of these individuals came from rural areas seeking work, but with jobs scarce and no extra money for basic accommodations, they are forced to sleep on the streets, waiting for opportunities. Some netizens pointed out that this scene occurred as early as last year, and the tragic situation has worsened dramatically this year. Young people across China are sleeping on streets, in pipes, and underground passages. Even cinemas have become makeshift sleeping places. While youth are often associated with vigor and fashion, China's economic decline has left many young people sleeping on the streets due to job scarcity. In July 2024, many people slept in Longhua bus station square in Shenzhen. The video shows numerous individuals sleeping on the ground, with many young people sitting in the square playing on their phones. The video subtitles read, "This year's unemployment rate is higher than in previous years. In previous years, there weren't as many people wandering and sleeping on the streets. This year, sleeping on the ground can be seen everywhere in stations, parks, and squares. It's clear how difficult it is to find a job this year. Some netizens say it will get even harder in the future, with possibly no work at all. It's terrifying to think about." A netizen also posted a photo of a child sleeping near Longhua bus station, showing a young man sitting on the ground, sleeping on his arms. On June 29, 2024, a netizen named Truth Media posted on Twitter that on June 25th, young people were sleeping under a bridge waiting for recruitment letters from factories. They mentioned that Jiangsu province is now full of stranded students, competing for hourly wages of just 13 to 14 yuan. The number of young people sleeping on the streets has risen in recent years as China's economy continues to decline. Many factories in Guangdong have closed, leading to widespread job losses and forcing people to live temporarily on the streets. According to incomplete statistics, unemployment, bankruptcy, and homelessness in major Chinese cities such as Shanghai, Beijing, and Chongqing are similar to what has been recorded in Shenzhen. Hundreds of major Japanese and Taiwanese corporations leave China over fears of being held hostage. Faced with growing threats from Beijing, Japanese, Taiwanese, and other companies are now accelerating their exit from China. On July 23rd, Japan's Nippon Steel announced that it would end its 20-year joint venture with China's Baosteel. The contract will expire at the end of August. Nippon Steel has found it difficult to expand its business in China and plans to shift investment to India and the United States. Nippon Steel also stated that it plans to sell all of its shares in the joint venture with China's Baosteel for $241 million, though the sale will require regulatory approval. During the joint venture, Nippon Steel sued China's Baosteel in a Japanese court in 2021, accusing the Chinese side of stealing Japanese patents on electroplated steel sheets, which China supplies to Toyota for electric vehicles. The case is still ongoing. This is a typical example of foreign companies rushing to withdraw from China. On July 12th, Japanese construction machinery manufacturer Kato Works announced the dissolution and liquidation of its subsidiary that produces and sells hydraulic excavators in Kunshan, Jiangsu. Construction machinery company Kato Nakajima also announced that it would liquidate in August to exit the Chinese market. This trend is spreading from the manufacturing sector to the beauty products sector, with high-end skincare brands such as Shiseido also announcing their withdrawal from the Chinese market. Shiseido's flagship stores in China have recently stopped accepting new orders and have begun to close. Another Japanese company, Bridgestone, has also announced its withdrawal after more than 20 years of operations in China. Bridgestone has ceased producing and selling commercial tires in China and will likely focus on high-performance passenger tires. According to public information, in the past year, most of the globally renowned companies leaving China have been Japanese. These include manufacturing plants of Canon, Sony, Toshiba, and Nikon. Other companies that have exited China include Amazon, LinkedIn, and the R&D center of Astellas Pharmaceuticals. These companies have moved their supply chains to Thailand, the Philippines, or back home. Taiwanese companies face threats from China and seek refuge in other ways. Faced with threats from the Beijing government, Taiwanese companies are now seeking refuge in various ways. French media have expressed concern that China's hegemonic ambitions toward Taiwan have made Taiwan's leading technology companies worry about the worst-case scenarios. As a result, some companies are considering setting up a second headquarters outside Taiwan. Taiwanese companies have long outsourced a large part of their production. Foxconn, the world's leading computer equipment manufacturer and a subcontractor for Apple, Amazon, and Microsoft, focuses most of its business in China, but also operates in Europe, Brazil, and Mexico. TSMC, a semiconductor giant that manufactures for companies such as Nvidia and Apple, has just announced the construction of a second factory in Arizona, USA, with an investment of more than $65 billion, including $6.6 billion in subsidies from the U.S. government. Singapore and the Netherlands are priority locations for Taiwan's semiconductor IC industry to expand its factories. The trend of foreign capital withdrawal from China has been a hot topic since 2023. Earlier this year, global asset management firm Knight Frank analyzed that this trend is still ongoing. To calm public opinion, China's Ministry of Commerce stated that the inflow and outflow of foreign capital are in line with market rules, and that the narrative of foreign companies fleeing has been exaggerated and incited by external forces. Xinhua News Agency, the media outlet of the Chinese Communist Party, even criticized foreign companies for being foolish. Xinhua propaganda asserted that the best investment opportunities in the future still lie in China, and that leaving China would only mean missing out on these opportunities. A commentator noted that the deteriorating business environment in China is driving foreign capital to leave, with many foreign companies moving to Southeast Asia, India, and even returning to their home countries, such as the United States, Japan, and South Korea. These companies come to China to do business and make money, not to engage in charity work. A netizen named Trin Tai Roas suggested that foreign companies are reluctant to leave China because of its well-established supply chain and cheap labor force. However, in the past 3 to 5 years, not only have the remaining 100 Japanese companies left, but also other companies from Taiwan, Korea, the US, Germany, the UK, and even some Chinese enterprises have withdrawn from China. Japanese camera giant Nikon shut down its subsidiary Nikon Imaging in China. The world's largest hard drive maker Seagate closed its factory in Suzhou. Suzuki withdrew all shares from 2 subsidiaries in China. Nitto Denko Group closed its Suzhou factory and withdrew from China. Apple assemblers plan to move production lines to Taiwan or Southeast Asia. In 2019, South Korea's Samsung Electronics closed its factory in Huizhou, ending phone production in China and shifting to India, Vietnam, and other Southeast Asian countries. Japanese office equipment company Ricoh moved its photocopier production lines to Thailand. KF sold its China business to SNH. In 2020, British supermarket chain Tesco announced that it would completely withdraw from the Chinese market. Dutch company Philips sold its home appliance business to Hillhouse Capital and exited the home appliance market in China. American clothing retailer Old Navy announced its withdrawal from the Chinese market and closed all its physical and online stores in the country. In 2021, Yahoo stopped providing products and services in China. Toshiba closed its last factory in Dalian. Japanese electronics manufacturer Oki ceased its printer and copier manufacturing operations in China. In 2022, Canon closed its factory in Zhuhai, moving production lines to Japan. South Korea's Lotte Group closed its last department store in China, dissolved its headquarters in China, and increased investment in Southeast Asia. Apple announced that iPhones would be assembled and manufactured in an Indian factory. In 2023, Sony moved its main factory to Thailand. Citibank left China. Supermarket group Carrefour left China. U.S. asset management giant Vanguard and performance consulting firm Gallup announced they would close their operations in China and leave the country.
Look at the current situation of supermarkets. In the past, during Chinese New Year, crowds of people would rush to buy things. Now even the supermarkets are deserted. Is anyone still shopping in the supermarket? Look at these New Year goods. No one is buying them. The Chinese Communist Party's official media has vigorously promoted this year's booming Chinese New Year market, highlighting the new trend of electronic New Year greetings and depicting scenes of visiting relatives and friends, hot sales of New Year goods, and lively temple fairs. However, the reality starkly contrasts with these reports. Videos posted by mainland Chinese people on social media show empty shopping malls and supermarkets, deserted streets, unsold fruits and gift boxes, and even Shanghai lacking a festive atmosphere. Some netizens questioned, "Don't Shanghai people visit relatives during the Chinese New Year?" According to Radio Free Asia, Ms. Wang, a resident of Mentugu, Beijing, told reporters that the local market is eerily quiet, with many vegetable stores closing a week before Chinese New Year and only resuming business after the 7th day of the Lunar New Year. There is no one in the markets or shopping malls now. In previous years, there were constant firecrackers, but this year, only a few scattered ones. The stalls in shopping malls are deserted. This is not just one or two stores. It's almost universal. In the past, vegetable stores stayed open until the 27th or 28th of the Lunar New Year. But this year, they closed 10 or 7 days in advance. The earliest they will reopen is the 7th or 8th day of the Lunar New Year. Blogger Xiaoshushu said he went to the supermarket on the 5th day of the Lunar New Year, and along the way, he saw all the stores on the street closed, with few people at the supermarket entrance. Many business owners have also reported worsening sales during Chinese New Year. A fruit shop owner I know said that compared to last year, customer purchasing power has dropped by 2/3. Shanghai was also deserted during the New Year. Due to China's economic downturn and the authorities' crackdown on foreign-funded enterprises, a large number of these companies have withdrawn, and almost all foreigners have left. China's wealthy class is also fleeing and moving overseas. Today, I'm taking you to see the streets of Shanghai during the New Year. They are deserted. If you throw a stick, you don't have to worry about hitting anyone. If you take the bus, you might end up having it all to yourself if you're not careful. On the road, I think it would be safe to carry a bed and sleep on it. As my colleague put it, seeing a person now feels strange. Shanghai Pudong Airport is empty. I don't know what it was like before. Does anyone know? I'm heading to Thailand. Not many people are going there either. Houses in Shanghai are also not selling. The second-hand market is not optimistic. Even if you lower the price a little, no one will pay attention to it. The rich keep their money in banks and don't spend it, while those who actually want to spend have no money. The market is now in a very serious state of involution. Hello, this is Shanghai Supermarket. It is huge, covering several thousand square meters. Look around. You can't even see the end of it. This supermarket is massive, yet there's no one here at this time. It's really difficult to do business now. It stretches as far as the eye can see, but you can only spot 2 people. I might as well come here, walk around, and buy whatever I need. Big supermarkets require huge investments, but there are barely any customers. It's really hard to make money now. The supermarket is enormous and well-stocked. This is supposed to be the most lively place in Shanghai, yet it is completely deserted. Running a supermarket is incredibly difficult. You can't even see the end of it. Just look how big it is. In recent years, corporate layoffs, unstable incomes, and rising unemployment rates have forced many families to cut back on non-essential spending. This year, my husband and I became the first unemployed couple who dared not go home for the new year. This identity felt like a heavy yoke binding our lives, turning going home for the new year, once a warm and anticipated event, into something tangled with fear. Just before we lost our jobs, we gritted our teeth and bought our own house, believing we would have a stable home in this city and start a happy new life. But fate seemed to be working against us. After I lost my job early last year, I told myself to hold on, believing things would improve. But a few months later, my husband's company collapsed like a building in an instant, leaving almost all employees jobless. Worse yet, they were forced to sign an unfair agreement. Not only did they receive no compensation, but their wages were also withheld. At that moment, our lives plunged into darkness. To save money, we haven't bought new clothes for a long time, nor have we gone out for a decent meal. Every penny must be carefully calculated, and every expense must be reconsidered repeatedly.
The economic crisis is also worsening. China is still celebrating the Lunar New Year, which should be a festive time. However, a netizen recently returned to China and visited a shopping mall in Shanghai. He later posted, "It can be described in 4 words: terrible." The shopping mall, spanning hundreds of thousands of square meters, was nearly empty, to the point of being eerie. At noon, Yonghui Supermarket had only 1 cashier, despite covering an area of more than 10,000 square meters. There was no escalator in the basement, so people had to walk up and down. The vacancy rate of stores along the 1-kilometer-long street was 80%, with almost no first-tier or second-tier brands. The netizen stated, "No exaggeration or slander. This is the reality. The economy is finished." As China's economy continues to slow and housing prices plummet, the new poor are emerging in major cities like Beijing and Shanghai. They may appear well-dressed, but mounting debt has pushed them into financial hardship. A new term has surfaced on Chinese social media: new poor. This group is expanding across major cities, particularly in first-tier cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen, where such cases are more common. Common characteristics of the new poor include owning a house and a car in the city, having little to no savings. Aside from the house and car, they possess no other significant assets, holding debt in the millions, sometimes even tens of millions, with massive monthly repayments. Due to a sharp decline in income, they now struggle to cover their bills. Many wonder, if someone owns a house and a car in the city and has a net worth of at least millions of yuan, how can they be considered poor? The answer lies in the fact that most people purchase homes and cars on installment plans, creating immense financial pressure. The repayment period can stretch for decades. Furthermore, with the Chinese economy in decline, many have lost their jobs and face unstable incomes. Under the strain of mortgages and car loans, they are forced to cut spending and lower their quality of life just to get by. They dare not splurge on entertainment or even fall ill, becoming the city's new poor. These new poor are described as living in houses worth millions of yuan, but struggling to pay a 10,000 yuan mortgage. Driving cars worth hundreds of thousands of yuan, but unable to afford a 500 yuan tank of gas. Their daily lives are burdened by high mortgage payments, with nearly all their income going toward home and car loans. They work tirelessly every day, living in constant anxiety. If they lose their jobs or fail to meet their monthly mortgage payments, the bank will repossess their house and car, erasing years of effort. In recent years, China's real estate market has been sluggish, with home prices in first-tier cities dropping nearly 30%. In other cities, the decline has been even steeper, with some areas seeing prices fall by more than 50%. Those who purchased homes at peak prices are now suffering heavy financial losses. Compared to rural residents, the new poor have lower risk tolerance since they do not own land or grow their own food. In the city, everything, from food and clothing to housing and transportation, is expensive. Beyond mortgages, they must cover daily expenses, including utilities, transportation, and social obligations. Every morning when they wake up, they are met with mounting debts and necessary expenditures. These new poor struggle to make ends meet. If one day they lose their income, the city will mercilessly force them to pack up and leave. Political commentator Zhang Tianliang stated in a recent program that insider information suggests Xi Jinping may be aware of growing public discontent. As a result, his first directive to the Ministry of Public Security in 2025 was to prioritize and swiftly handle political cases. Notably, related documents have reportedly been sent to grassroots public security offices. There are claims that around the Chinese New Year, leaflets with similar messages appeared on university campuses in cities like Beijing, Shijiazhuang, Zhengzhou, Guangzhou, and Changsha, calling for the overthrow of Xi Jinping and the CCP. These leaflets speculated on potential political shifts, mentioning the possible impact of Trump's return to power and the next 4 years as a period of change for China.
Various virus epidemics are raging in China. Many mainland citizens have revealed that a large number of seriously ill patients are crowding hospitals. People around them are constantly passing away suddenly, and many are dying in their sleep. The phenomenon of people collapsing everywhere has become the norm. Crematoriums are expanding, and rural cemeteries are full. In late March, people in many places told NTD that all major local hospitals and funeral homes were full. Mr. An, a citizen of Shenzhen. Now there are many sudden deaths of all ages, but more among young people. I have seen several young people in their 20s and 30s who were usually healthy and had no symptoms, but suddenly collapsed. I don't know what the problem is, they just trembled and fell to the ground. Walking on the street, I saw people collapsing. Citizens in Changsha, Hunan also revealed that the phenomenon of falling down everywhere is increasing. Mr. Li, a resident of Changsha, Hunan. I know 2 people who passed away in their 40s and 50s. They suddenly had cerebral thrombosis and cerebral infarction. They were in good health but just fell to the ground. Many people in the hospital have this problem. It will not be reported and the doctor won't tell you the cause of death. Mr. Zhang, a resident of Nanyang, Henan, said that due to too many people passing away, the hospital was overcrowded and the funeral home and cemetery were expanding. Mr. Zhang, our funeral home is quite busy and the hospital is busy. I went to the hospital to visit patients these days. A relative was hospitalized. When I arrived, the corridors of the ward were full of beds, completely full, and even the elevator door was blocked by beds. There was no place to put them. They were everywhere, especially in the cardiovascular and respiratory wards. I went to visit the graves during the Spring Festival. The cemetery area was constantly being dug up. Mr. Yuan, a resident of Fuyang, Anhui, said that the local cemeteries were sold out and many people had no place to be buried after passing away. Mr. Yuan, there are many sudden passings among people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, and the funeral homes and hospitals are full. They bury the deceased after cremation, and some are buried in secret. The original cemeteries have been sold out. Even the planned ones, like in my township, were bought in advance by the elderly. Now the deceased have nowhere to be buried. Ms. Zhang, a citizen of Yuxi, Yunnan, revealed that this year, there are more people who passed away from myocardial infarction and cerebral infarction. The number of funeral homes has increased, and so has the price of cemeteries. Ms. Zhang, there's still fever and coughing, that is, pneumonia and white lung have become more common recently. I know 2 young people around 40 who suddenly had myocardial infarctions and cerebral infarctions without warning. And they passed away. The price of cemeteries has gone up too, by thousands or even tens of thousands of yuan compared to before. The number of passings in recent years has increased compared to before the epidemic. The authorities first said it was influenza A, then some virus infection. They just changed the name to fool the public. Mr. Chen, a truck driver in Fujian, revealed that he drove around and saw people passing away all over the country. He believes hundreds of millions may have passed in recent years. Mr. Chen, several of my relatives and friends passed away in the past 2 years. They had all sorts of diseases. They had been treated their whole lives, spent all their money in hospitals, and still passed away. Many relatives and friends around me are gone now, mostly middle-aged and elderly. There must be hundreds of millions of deaths across the country. You can feel it. Just look at how many people around you have passed away. I drive all day and see funerals constantly. Since the start of the year, there have been funerals every day. I've seen so many. Mr. Chen also revealed that crematoriums and funeral homes have been expanded, but cremated bodies are no longer viewable. Families are worried about multiple bodies being burned together. Mr. Chen, now the crematoriums and funeral homes have been upgraded. Cremation is faster, but you can't watch anymore. Before we could see from outside, but not now. The technology is better. 2 or 3 years ago, there was no time to cremate. When relatives passed away, we had to wait in line for several days, even half a month or more. Now it's improved, and many can be cremated in 1 day. Citizens in Wuxi, Jiangsu province disclosed that a large number of young and middle-aged people in major hospitals have white lungs and heart conditions. But the authorities are hiding the truth. Mr. Liu, a citizen of Wuxi, Jiangsu. Now there are many heart conditions and white lungs here, affecting people in their 20s to 40s. Everyone knows where the problem comes from, but the government media won't touch that sensitive topic. There are many people at the funeral home, but the authorities forbid discussion and the news is tightly controlled.
Of 258 square kilometers, the Jingjin New City project was once hailed as Asia's largest complex of villas and high-rise buildings. However, it has now become China's latest ghost city, with more than 3,000 villas and hundreds of nearly abandoned office and apartment buildings. An hour's drive from Beijing, next to the Jinji Expressway turnoff in Tianjin, an archway combining Chinese and European styles welcomes you to Jingjin City. The Gate of Triumph, named after the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, leads to a planned urban area spanning 258 square kilometers, featuring at least 3,000 villas, a 5-star hotel, a resort with hot springs, golf courses, museums, temples, 2 universities, entertainment facilities, and a huge area of abandoned land. Yet what is missing here is residents. A local resident, Mr. Gao Huaxu, in his 60s, said that in the area where he lives, there are nearly 400 villas, but only about 8 to 10 of them are occupied during the fall and winter. In the spring and summer, the situation is better, but no more than 20 are occupied, Mr. Go said. Tianjin's Baodi district government, together with Hong Kong property developer Hobson Development, began the project in 2002. In 2006, the Chinese government approved Jingjin City as one of 11 satellite cities for Beijing and Tianjin to be developed. More than 20 years later, Asia's largest villa complex remains a ghost town with a sparse population, deserted streets, and an eerie silence. A representative of Hobson confirmed that the area was a construction site and that many villa owners were wealthy business leaders who were too busy to visit their properties. The project would take time, said Zhao Yuting, general manager of Hobson's Tianjin area. arguing that it would take longer to build a city than just a residential area. But in new cities such as Ordos in Inner Mongolia and Shenmue in Shanxi, infrastructure and economic opportunities have lagged behind construction, making them less appealing to residents, experts say. Walking down the main street here feels lonely and cold. Some shops leading to the city center have empty shelves. A woman who rented a temporary apartment in the area 4 years ago for gardening work says she has never seen a shop stay open for long. There used to be a pet shop here, but it quickly closed down, she says. Outside the main gates of the residential areas are empty shops with large broken signs, some advertising hair salons or gyms. Zhang Jun, a cleaner, says they were brought here to make the area look populated. A few minutes' walk from the Arc de Triomphe is a massive 800-room Hyatt Regency. Rising like a castle in the twilight, the hotel is largely empty, save for a dozen staff and guests preparing for a product exhibition. 2 hotel staff said they usually only receive 100 to 200 guests. Only on weekends does the number increase slightly. Zhao Zongsheng, a taxi driver outside the universities, said the city was almost dead, with no facilities and a long commute to Beijing and Tianjin. It's only suitable for those who are retired but not too old, Zhao said. At the project sales center, staff said most of the villas had been sold, but owners rarely came. Half of the 53 square kilometer project has yet to be built, while another 4,000 villas are planned, said Yang Kang, a sales representative. Most buyers are purchasing for retirement, vacation, or speculation. In the early years after the city was approved by the Chinese government, amid great public interest, the Baodi government announced plans to expand the city to 258 square kilometers, equivalent to the size of central Tianjin. Hobson Development has poured more than 20 billion yuan into the project, according to Time Weekly. Zhao said at least 1,000 villas have been sold, with occupancy rates rising by 10 to 15% last year. However, most of the owners are government officials or senior leaders who rarely visit, leaving few properties occupied, and the streets remain deserted. In a revised plan released late last year, the Baodi government abandoned plans to expand the project to 258 square kilometers, claiming that only 53 square kilometers had been planned. According to a study by China's National Development and Reform Commission, there is at least one such project in every city in China's 12 provinces and autonomous regions. Compared to the ever-expanding districts in China's major cities, these empty urban areas lack businesses, and residents are discouraged from moving there due to limited job opportunities and poor infrastructure. Area adjacent to the villa complex. The neighborhood was empty when we arrived. We asked a local worker about it, and he explained that only a few people have moved in over the years. This area is called Shangjiang Health Town. According to real estate listings, multiple communities are planned here, with a total of 10,083 homes, including numerous townhouses, small high-rise buildings, and taller apartment complexes. From an aerial view, the neighborhoods are densely clustered. The townhouse area we saw earlier is considered high-end, consisting of 26 townhouses that can accommodate 531 households. A real estate agent mentioned that the lack of ventilation is a major reason for the low occupancy. She added that Chinese cooking requires gas, as cooking with electricity doesn't provide the same results. However, the issue extends beyond gas. The area lacks adequate facilities. Only kindergartens exist, with no primary or secondary schools. The earliest communities here were built over a decade ago, yet there are no proper schools, making it difficult for families. Medical facilities are also scarce, with only a private hospital and a pharmacy available. Shopping options are limited to basic supermarkets, with no malls or entertainment facilities such as gyms, parks, or cinemas. This lack of amenities makes it unappealing for residents to live here. Nearby, several high-rise residential buildings have halted construction, likely becoming stalled projects, or Lan Wei Lu. Some appear complete from the outside but remain unfinished inside. Online information reveals delays in certain housing estates in this area. These tall buildings, over 30 floors high, seem to consist of small units, which we plan to investigate further. Inside one of the residential properties, the unfinished state is evident. Despite many houses being built, they remain undecorated. From the windows, you can see the surrounding neighborhoods, including a villa community with row villas over 200 square meters in size, priced at just over 3,000 yuan per square meter. Some are still up for sale. The high-rises nearby also have similar pricing, which is surprisingly low. The units are mostly small, with one-bedroom layouts, including a bathroom and kitchen, all in compact spaces. Despite the low prices, the area's shortcomings have left it desolate and uninhabited, and this desolation has persisted for decades.
Dongguan, known as the world's factory with over 14,000 export enterprises, is being devastated by tariffs. When these factories can't ship goods, upstream and downstream orders collapse. One Taiwanese factory extended its one-day holiday to 5 days due to lack of work. To survive, export-oriented businesses are forced into domestic sales, flooding the market and crushing smaller factories. The three pillar industries, electronics, textiles, and machinery, are hit hardest. Before, electronics factories were crippled by a 25% tariff. A factory with 10,000 employees making Apple headphones now has empty dorms and slashed profits. Furniture and textile factories are cutting prices just to survive, but no one is buying. Machinery firms face a 30% surge in procurement costs due to reliance on U.S. technology. Factories are either raising prices or bleeding losses. Tariffs have wiped out profits and cut Dongguan's orders by nearly 70%. Factory owners are overwhelmed by debt and sleepless with worry. 80% now have destroyed credit. One mold factory went bankrupt, and the boss disappeared without paying wages. Employees are left abandoned. As one worker said, "If your company hasn't paid in 2 months, run. Don't go down with the boss." Nearly half of the factories in Dongguan have closed following the U.S. tariff decision. Is there no work to do, or are they just staying in their hometowns? Look at Dongguan, the former industrial capital. Now the streets are empty. There are not many people, including for recruitment. In the past, there were queues and crowds of people every time the recruitment season came. Now there are only a few people. There are no applicants. Where did they go? As of April 11, 2025, Trump's second term has imposed tariffs on Chinese goods totaling 125%. The impact of high tariffs on China is immediate. A large number of videos circulating online show that Chinese private enterprises and bosses are wailing. The trade war has really begun, and it has hit our manufacturing bosses in the chest. We have also witnessed the history of this tariff. From the beginning, it rose by 34%, then to 104%, and now it has directly risen to 145%. What does this mean to us? First, the volatility of raw materials is very large. Second, foreign trade orders are directly cut in half, especially for those bosses who do American lines. Where should they go? Third, the stock market exploded in succession, and all sectors were in the red. Investors were really miserable. But the real horror was that these small and medium-sized enterprises with tight capital flow might not last more than 3 months and would really go bankrupt. The United States increased taxes, Europe increased taxes, Japan and South Korea increased taxes, and even Vietnam increased taxes. Brothers, the U.S. beef was just taxed by us and then it was hit back. Can we withstand this global siege? Friends who do foreign trade know how difficult it is to handle foreign trade this year. The United States has imposed this 34% tax, and many companies can't bear it. With a tariff of 145%, how can the bosses of Yiwu who do foreign trade survive? The business in the market has been very bleak in the past 2 or 3 years. This year's exports to the United States are estimated to be 50% less. In the end, we can only look at the European market and the Southeast Asian market of the Belt and Road Initiative. On April 9th, an employee in Jiangsu province shared a video online showing an empty workshop, saying that the factory had stopped working and was on holiday. She had to wait for notice on when to resume work, and she was forced to find temporary work. Hello friends, after the tariff policy came out, some companies have directly taken a 2-month holiday and have no orders. Those who understand know that this time the situation is very, very bad, and the situation is very, very serious. Now the workshop is full of foreign goods, and it is not known whether they can be shipped out or whether the other party wants them. Now the situation is like this. The factory has stopped working and producing. Hundreds of people have been disbanded on the spot, and all U.S. orders have stopped today. As soon as the tariff war started, the company's U.S. orders were all canceled overnight. The company went on holiday. Look, there is no one. I am a real furniture foreign trade factory for the U.S. market. Many people say to hold on, but a foreign trade factory that makes furniture has received orders from customers to suspend orders and will not ship. The factory has no orders. What should the employees do? How to hold on to the expenses? Then what will happen if it continues? Then the goods that are shipped are about to reach the U.S. port at sea. What can I do? Let me show you. This product is for export. Due to yesterday's tariffs, all orders have been stalled. All shipments have been suspended. So many goods are stuck here. In this tariff trade war, small and medium-sized enterprises like us are the first to bear the brunt. The U.S. has increased its tariffs on China to 125%. My God, it seems that the wages of our factory workers have to be reduced again. The current economic environment is so bad. Many people say, will it affect my 3,000 CNY salary? It will definitely affect it. You know, because I can't get money, right? You must reduce wages. What should I do? I can't afford to lose money. You can continue to call me a black-hearted capitalist. 70% of bosses in Ningbo are operating in debt. I have been working in Ningbo for 11 years in corporate loan services. I have never seen a boss who is worse off than his employees. Orders have shrunk by half and there is no profit left. The triangular debts are getting bigger and bigger. The bank loans may not be repaid in this lifetime. Many bosses in Ningbo go to courts and banks the most. When they go to court, they are either defendants or plaintiffs. When they go to banks, they beg for loans in a humble manner. 70% of bosses have a thicker credit record than the Xinhua dictionary. Even if the gods come, they can't save them. Some bosses rely on mortgaging houses, cars, and factories to keep their factories alive. Some bosses rely on borrowing private funds to pay their employees, and more bosses can't borrow a dime. Some netizens said that the biggest victims of the U.S. tariff stick this time are actually the pockets of ordinary people. There is no winner in the tariff war, but ordinary people are the most hurt. The U.S. and China are now in a trade war. Gold and stocks have collapsed. Tesla and BYD factories have closed. Now companies that export electronics have begun to reduce their staff. That means that many people will have to find jobs again in the second half of the year. Those who are still waiting for a good job at home after the Chinese New Year should not come out. Plant some soybeans and raise a few cows at home in the second half of the year because China has stopped importing these. The U.S. tariff stick is back, but this time it hits our wallets harder than Huawei or BYD. Prices are rising. Electric cars up by 3,000 yuan, iPhones by 500 yuan, and Tesla has paused its expansion. According to the Ministry of Finance, tariffs will increase household spending by 1,800 yuan annually. 3 major ripple effects follow. Export companies lay off workers. Factories in the Yangtze Delta cut hours. Prices spiral upward, especially for EVs and solar products, and the job market shrinks, with foreign trade jobs dropping by 23%. A toy factory owner in Dongguan said U.S. orders halved, and his 200-person team now works only 3 days a week. In this tariff war, there are no winners, only ordinary people lose. The first wave of casualties includes catering businesses. Popular BBQ buffets are closing down, especially those relying on cheap imported meats like pork, beef, and lamb. Rising ingredient costs have hurt performance. On the upside, chicken, duck, goose, and local aquatic food businesses are unaffected and may even benefit as consumers shift preferences. Now, enterprises in Jiangsu, Zhejiang, and Shanghai have begun to appear. Large areas of stranded people have already seen a tide of people returning home. There may be more people returning home than leaving. If you don't believe it, go to the train station and see that there are many people carrying bags, but they don't know where to go. Those who work in labor know that at present, enterprises in Jiangsu, Zhejiang, and Shanghai are almost full and have no shortage of people, so they either go back to their hometowns, live in train stations, sleep in parks, or choose to lie flat. Now there are basically no enterprises to enter. If you really have pressure and want to go out to work, then you must think carefully and be able to accept a bad job. Scholar Mr. Kai told RFA that the CCP's internal circulation economy is failing. With the U.S. market lost, external circulation is also in trouble. As China pushes the U.S. trade war into extreme confrontation, Chinese factory workers, e-commerce sellers, and SMEs are bearing the brunt.
Have you seen the army of people withdrawing money? The room is about to burst. Bank staff urgently need guardrails. It seems the glass is in danger of bursting at any moment. People's actions are the most direct. They are afraid that if they leave their money in the bank for even one more second, they will not be able to withdraw it. Chinese people are starting to worry about the safety of their deposits. Some netizens have asked, "Is it really my money?" Some have even advised withdrawing the money and keeping it at home, not worrying about bank interest. In April this year, banks including the Agricultural Bank of China, Shanghai Pudong Development Bank, and China Everbright Bank issued announcements to lower the transaction limits of some or all customers' online services, including personal online banking, mobile banking transfers, online payments, and non-counter services, such as online transfers and online payments. In addition to restricting online transfers and payments, offline withdrawals for many bank depositors have also been restricted. Recently, videos of depositors queuing at banks have surfaced in Shenzhen, Shanghai, and Dandong, Liaoning. Netizens have complained about the difficulty of withdrawing money, questioned whether banks are short of funds, and expressed concern about whether they will be able to access their deposits in the future. In Shanghai, banks have been crowded since the lockdown was lifted in June. However, they have limited the number of users per day due to epidemic prevention measures. Elderly pensioners in Shanghai flocked to banks at 2 a.m. to line up, but often could not withdraw their money. Some arrived at 5 a.m. but could not even get their license plates. Depositors in Shenzhen told foreign media that the issue was not random, but had been forewarned. They said in June that the inability to withdraw money from ATMs was nothing new. This had occurred several months ago, including at China Construction Bank and Agricultural Bank of China. Consumers in mainland China now mainly pay online using Alipay and similar platforms. They transferred money from their banks to Alipay, and so far, there have been no issues. However, there have been some cases of unsuccessful transfers to Alipay or Yuebao payments. The official media of the Chinese Communist Party has indirectly confirmed that a wave of bank runs has occurred in China. The Shanghai headquarters of the People's Bank of China reported on June 20th that the amount of cash transfers in early June alone was nearly 4 times that of the same period last year. While such incidents continue to occur across China, the Chinese people's trust in banks has been severely damaged. It is this trust that is crucial and most important in the financial sector, determining whether the banking industry can escape the run. It is almost certain that the CCP will have difficulty escaping the fate of a bank run. But how much worse will China's situation become, and will it collapse the CCP's banking and financial systems? Dongguan depositors are angered by limits and difficulties in withdrawing money. Whose money does it belong to?
In recent years, China's economy has been sluggish, housing prices have plummeted, and mortgage defaults and foreclosures have surged, directly threatening the mainland's financial system. Mainland bank branches frequently face difficulties in allowing withdrawals, causing dissatisfaction among depositors. Recently, a netizen in Dongguan, Guangdong, reported on social media that a man encountered a transfer limit and had an argument with a Bank of China staff member. During the dispute, the man emotionally questioned the staff member, "Whose money is in this card?" The staff member replied, "The money is your money, but it depends on the source." The man explained that the money in the account was remitted by his son from Shanghai. "I can't transfer my money. I can transfer 4,000 yuan a day. It takes me several days to transfer more than 10,000. The bank claimed it had set a limit on the customer's transfer because it was worried about the customer being defrauded. The original transfer limit for the customer was 4,999 yuan, RMB, the same below, per day. In the comments section, netizens expressed their disagreement. Some comments said banks should not ask customers to prove the source of the money, but rather prove whether the money is legal. Many people shared similar experiences, claiming they had also faced difficulties withdrawing money. Banks appear unfriendly to customers, as if the money is not their own. Mr. Xu, a resident of Jiangsu, said in an interview with Radio Free Asia that his child needs to pay tuition fees, but he cannot transfer more than 7,000 yuan. He can only transfer up to 5,000 yuan per day, requiring 2 days, not 2 transactions, to transfer the required amount. The Central Bank of China issued an announcement earlier stating that appointments are necessary for withdrawing more than 50,000 yuan from a bank. According to media reports, in June this year, a bank in Jilin province required customers to undergo a review by the local police station when withdrawing deposits exceeding 20,000 yuan. Additionally, a man in Qingdao was unable to withdraw money because the bank teller asked him to provide proof of the source of funds. A woman in Shenyang wanted to withdraw 5,000 yuan, but was asked to bring her husband, which became a hot topic. In Xingtai, a woman using her husband's bank card to withdraw 25,000 yuan for medical expenses faced significant delays because her husband was hospitalized. Some netizens questioned whether this violates the principle of voluntary deposits and free withdrawals, outlined in the authorities' commercial bank law, given the simplicity of deposit procedures compared to the extensive approvals required for withdrawals. Bank card transfers were suddenly limited, blocking users. Since the second half of this year, many banks in mainland China have issued announcements further reducing bank card transfer limits. The reason given by the banks is to prevent telecommunications fraud. The situations of customers whose non-counter transaction limits have been reduced vary, with daily limits ranging from 500 yuan to 1,000 yuan and 2,000 yuan. According to a report by the Beijing News on November 12th, a woman told Shell Finance that she did not expect her salary card to be suddenly restricted. In July this year, she originally planned to withdraw tens of thousands of yuan from the Bank of China. But neither the transfer nor the ATM withdrawal was successful because it exceeded the daily transfer limit. What she didn't expect was that another Jiangxi Bank Class 1 bank card under her name, mainly used to repay her mortgage, was also restricted in July and August. This year, when she tried to withdraw the expired 200,000 yuan fixed deposit in her account, she was told that the transfer failed because the non-counter daily limit was 2,000 yuan. According to Jimian News, Mr. Su's daily transfer limit on his salary card was reduced to 500 yuan without prior notice. However, he needed to pay his mortgage, and this measure caused him significant trouble. Many users believe that the bank is deliberately imposing difficulties and setting limits to prevent funds from flowing out. Some netizens complained that when they need to pay mortgages, car loans, tuition fees for their children, or cover emergency hospitalization expenses, such restrictions by the bank cause countless problems and endless distress. Some analysts believe this situation is related to a capital flow crisis within banks.
Financial institutions freeze depositors' accounts and block withdrawals under the guise of anti-fraud measures, but in reality, it is to gain time for internal capital turnover. Analysts argue that the Chinese Communist Party authorities are using the so-called anti-telecommunications fraud law to control people's accounts in response to the current economic crisis. Yu Weixiong, an economist at the University of California, Los Angeles, said, "One of the purposes behind this is to reduce the amount and frequency of people's withdrawals from banks, because banks may face significant liquidity risks." Over the past decade or so, China, the Communist Party of China, has excessively pursued high growth, leading to rising debts such as real estate bubbles. Now, it must confront these long-accumulated problems, which are very serious. This incident is not isolated. A citizen in Changchun went to a bank to withdraw money and was told that for withdrawals exceeding 20,000 yuan, proof from the police station was required. Similarly, residents in Shenyang and Jiangsu who attempted to withdraw money were blocked and asked to provide proof. Analysts suggest that the authorities are cutting leaks from the entire population in an effort to cover bad bank debts and delay the outbreak of a crisis. Current affairs commentator Qin Peng remarked, "Now, during the CCP's bailout efforts, we see that it is not allocating funds to small and medium-sized enterprises or residents, but is instead preparing more than 60,000 to 8 trillion yuan for local government debt. This is also to prevent the outbreak of a financial crisis and to stop the government's financing platforms from triggering a banking sector collapse due to liquidity issues." Dark times ahead. Many banks in China restrict transfers. Even 1,000 yuan can't be moved. In recent years, China's economy has continued to decline. Impacted by the real estate industry, the banking sector is now in crisis. Recently, several bank branches in China have faced difficulties with cash withdrawals, leading to dissatisfaction among depositors. Regarding the reduction of bank card transfer limits, many users believe that banks are deliberately making it harder for funds to flow out by setting such limits. According to a recent report by Shell Finance of the Beijing News, many bank card users reported that their bank card limits were restricted without their knowledge. Some people visited bank branches to increase their credit limits in order to use their bank cards normally, but some cardholders ultimately gave up using them altogether. Since the second half of this year, numerous banks have issued announcements stating they will adjust the non-counter transaction limits of some personal bank settlement accounts. These announcements mentioned financial institutions such as the Bank of China, China Construction Bank, Agricultural Bank of China, and Jiangxi Bank. Regarding the reduction of bank card transfer limits, many users believe this is a deliberate move by banks to prevent funds from flowing out by setting strict limits. However, bank personnel explained that the measure primarily aims to prevent telecommunications fraud. Despite this, all affected bank card users reported that their non-counter transfer limits were lowered without notification, and the bank did not send SMS notifications became a common complaint. One affected user, Li Yun, said she did not expect her salary card to be suddenly restricted. In July this year, she originally planned to withdraw reimbursement funds from the Bank of China, tens of thousands of yuan, but both the transfer and ATM withdrawal failed because the daily transfer limit was exceeded. Unexpectedly, another Jiangxi Bank Class 1 card under her name, primarily used for mortgage payments, was also restricted in July and August. Li Yun had used these two bank cards for many years without previously encountering any transfer or ATM withdrawal limits. However, both banks had now set a daily mobile transfer limit of 2,000 yuan on her cards without notifying her. Li Yun said, "The Bank of China staff initially told me to go to the branch with my ID to handle it. But when I arrived at the branch near my home, they said I needed to visit the branch where I opened the account." She couldn't complete the process that day because the branch was closed, and it took her a month to successfully increase her credit limit. According to a report by Shanghai radio and television station Cancan News on the 14th, recently, some bank card users reported that their personal bank card transfer limits were reduced without their knowledge. Some users said they could not even transfer 1,000 yuan. These customers believe that banks are limiting non-counter transactions to prevent funds from leaving. In January this year, Jupai News reported that a woman in Pingdingshan City, Henan Province, said her sister had transferred money to her and asked her to withdraw 5,000 yuan for a New Year's red envelope, but she encountered issues while withdrawing the money at Zhongyuan Bank. Ms. Wang, the individual involved, said that the staff initially asked her to download an anti-fraud app, and she cooperatively answered all their questions. However, they began asking more personal questions, including where her sister worked and where she had worked previously, and even asked her to prove her sister was a biological relative. After calling the police, it took nearly 2 hours to complete the withdrawal. Similarly, according to Poster News, a woman in Jiangxi posted on social media that she went to a bank with 100,000 yuan in cash for a fixed deposit, but the bank staff unexpectedly asked about the origin of the money. The woman said she thought, "Why does it matter where my money comes from? Just follow my instructions." She felt it made her look like she had stolen the money. When she asked why they questioned her, they responded that it was bank policy. In response, some netizens commented, "The banking system really needs reform. The service attitude varies greatly. When depositing money, they treat you like a VIP, but when withdrawing, it's a different story."